All right, another episode from the coach's desk. And we had the last video we talked about how an exercise is a means to an end. And what's an interesting thing that I've noticed in the gym is that you'll see athletes in their off time doing really fucking weird exercises. like really, really strange things. And then even myself, I was guilty of this in my younger days when I was like really into like the bodybuilding thing and trying to get huge. And like the perfect example I think was doing the calf raises with like changes in your foot position, right? Thinking that I'm gonna build certain parts of my calf.
You got pretty good calves.
I know, but we know calves are more genetics.
Genetics,
but,
yeah.
But like not like Eric's. Eric Turner's got the best calves. But this idea that, you know, when you look at a muscle mag or you look at like a bodybuilder, and then at that level, variations in the planes of movement and how you grip the bar, the dumbbells, they will influence certain parts of the body differently because they're also in a purely aesthetic sport, right? The average person does not have the muscular development, nor are they lean enough, right, to have to worry about subtle rotations, pronations, supinations, foot position, all these little tiny small things that think are gonna like magically transform their glutes or hamstrings or calves. It's simply not the case.
That's right. And also, you know, bodybuilding is an awesome sport. I think that the people who are really dedicated to bodybuilding are probably the most disciplined athletes out there. But symmetry is king. And so if you are very right-handed and you have an underdeveloped left side in the meet, that is going to be very apparent. And so they have to scrutinize their development of their left side to a much greater degree than any human realistically needs to do that. And they had to do it for a specific purpose, to meet a judge's interpretation of the rubric, right? And so we're not talking about like what normal people need to adhere to, right? This is an extreme population who is very disciplined to excel at their sport.
At a very high level.
At a very high level.
You get to the point where it's like, you know, you can see the striations, you know, you can see the head of the tricep very clearly. Like they're having a target specific, what would be defined as a weak spot for their sport. The average person simply doesn't need to worry about that. The average person needs to press overhead, press horizontally, pull, squat, lunge, do bilateral work, do unilateral work. But all this idea of changing strange foot position or does a back squat work my butt better than a front squat versus a split squat, like all these, like you're missing the big point. Like there's just bigger fish to fry, and the more important thing is training at the right volume and intensity, the right frequency, having a good program, having your nutrition dialed in. If you're going through all these, you know, trying to gain here and gain there, but you're at a deficit right now because you're also trying to lean out, like you're not gonna build a better butt if you're also at a caloric deficit. Right. That's a two-stage process that requires a surplus and then a deficit. So I think when it comes down to, like when you see a funny exercise on the Instagram or the YouTube or whatever it may be, you need to ask yourself, does that variation apply to you, right? I mean, you may see a super jack guy or a female with an amazing physique who's a high-level bikini competitor, and she may be like, this is my favorite exercise because of this. It probably doesn't apply to you.
Well, and it also probably took that athlete, like them incorporating it in their regime probably took them from maybe a middle of the pack athlete to a podium athlete, right? And so of course it's going to be their favorite exercise because it propelled them in their sport. Does that mean that it's appropriate for you or even really relevant to you? No, it doesn't. And also, who is this who's trying to sell you this Kool-Aid, right? Is it somebody who is specifically training for a bodybuilder competition, or is it somebody who is a workaday athlete who has a 9-to-5 and is looking to train 5 to 6 days a week? You know, I mean, these are two very different populations. And so you just need to put the emphasis on the traditional classic lifts that people have been doing since we were people. These are the things that are going to develop your musculature. If you're extending your hips, you're working your butt and your upper hamstrings. If you're bringing your heels to your butt, you're working your lower hamstrings and your calves to some extent. If you are pressing your elbows away, you're working your chest and your tricep. If you're pulling your elbows in, you're working your lats. It's these sort of things. Like focus on those major movements. And then from there, if you desire to attain a certain type of aesthetic, then look into those very niche variations of exercises.
Yep. Stick to the simple exercises. They work for a reason. The world's strongest athletes in the world, what do? They squat, they press, they pick things off the ground. They may do some variations specific to their sport or specific for a competition. But the basics work. That should be the vast majority of your time and effort.
Yes.
Yep.